Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8, not season 8. You might be wondering why I'm off on this island. The sun is about to set. We are going to be smelting down the cassiterite. I have some hickory on me, and I'm going to show you where to get the markings, which is why we're out on this island. So we just dive in, aim for that squid that probably blends in the video. Pick up the ink, and head back to the surface. Now the water here is pretty deep. Squid will probably spawn just about everywhere. Should only need probably one ink sac, because we're aiming to make a chisel. The chisel is what's going to help us unlock the rest of the metallurgy and the metal components. There's a spider over there. Going to need some paper. I do have a couple of pieces, but might as well harvest that while they're full. And now I'm going to head up away from the spider. So I've done a little legwork here. I've gone over to the pond that used to be below where I used to be sleeping, and I have collected some clay. Just going to sleep real quick. Get rid of that evil, evil moon. Then we'll head up the hill. At the top of the hill I've done a little bit of work. Nothing major, as I wanted to keep the majority of the components available for everybody to take a peek at and such. And something was behind me, wasn't it? Nah. Anyways, so I've taken down a bit of the forge. So we will be building a new one as soon as we can get there. First of all, though, I just want to show you the basics of smelting the ore, because you really need to do this before anything. So I've prepped this up. Is actually my previous little layout here is one too low, as it needs to be about this high. That's how we're going to do the bloomeries. I got this out in preparation of putting the forge in there, and nothing's following me. So first thing we need is a bellows, and I left the materials down below. Ignore that chest. That chest is filled with things that are already made, and I want to show you guys start to finish what you need to be able to do this. So in my chest down here, it's always much easier going downstairs. I have we need 3 pieces of leather. We'll also need 6 pieces of wood. Since I just happen to have that handy, we'll use that. And I'll make it right here just so I can do it a little quicker. So 3 leather in the middle, have 1 line of wood on the top, 1 line of wood on the bottom, and that gets you a bellows. This is what we can use to excite the temperature of a campfire. And I'll worry about the ink in a little bit. So this is how we can get a campfire's temperature to be way up, in addition to the extra height that we have from the elevation at the top of this mountain. Just climb right back up. So what we're going to do, we're going to use hickory, which is the hottest burning wood. We've had our little forest, it's on the other side of the house. We've had a little forest growing for a while now, so I got a fairly good supply of hickory. I just chopped down a couple of the trees. I also set a couple of wood piles up here, just in case. So, fill the thing up. And do I have a lighter? No, I don't. Didn't need to go here, but there I am. And we'll just start our fire back up. So that's previous attempts. I'll not say what happened. So, as the fire burns up, the temperature is going to rise. Hickory should sit right about here or so, and it's going to warm our cassiterite up. What I'm going to do to help it out a bit is put the bellows to the side of the fire so it will blow on the fire. Now the thing here is that the bellows are going to have the area, you can kind of see it in the bottom right on my screen right there, is where the air will come out, and it will be placed facing in the direction that you are facing. So it's going to face out towards the campfire, blow on top of it. You can see the little extra black flux or particles and stuff like that coming out, and that will actually, yeah, see how it kicked the temperature up significantly? Is I think if I actually pushed it hard enough, it would probably go up to that next little line there. And if you're trying to get, yeah, there we go. If you're trying to get, ooh, copper, that is the temperature that you need it to be. Oops, I made a mistake right there. Let's put that back. Put that back. So that would be the temperature you need to be, is to keep it really high up there. For cassiterite, though, we don't need it that hot. So I'm going to save a bit of wood because pumping the bellows will make it go through the wood faster. And I'm just going to let it heat up. And as it passes through cold to warm to hot, it'll then get very hot. And after that, the next state is going to be liquid. So that's just because cassiterite's melting point is that low to get it into tin here. So the first piece went through and made us a half piece. You can tell by the damage bar here, it made us a half piece of unshaped tin. So we need to melt a second piece of the ore into this one to get a full piece of the unshaped tin. While it's doing that, although, oh, it's done, cool. So I'm going to let the fire burn down because we got our unshaped piece. We are going to need the heat, so I need to keep a bit of an eye on it. But the next thing that we're going to need is an anvil. And you make an anvil out of a solid piece of normal stone, natural stone. So I'm going to do it this time out of granite, as I believe I've mentioned this a couple of times. That's what you need, just the eye shape. Any sort of smooth stone will get you a stone anvil, and I shall place it there. So that's how we get that. Temperature is still doing good. The next thing we need is a hammer, so we can shape the piece of tin. This is made out of cobblestone, and it's just the extra little piece. So we have the entire upside down U, and the two sticks in the middle will give us a stone hammer. And this is the forging interface. On the left-hand side, you'll see hits. On the right-hand side, you'll see what are known as punches. And these are the two different strikes that you can do to the metal to try and work it into shape. On the right-hand side here, we have a little overlay that kind of matches the paper, you see, but it doesn't have the right thing. This is where your plans will go when you're actually trying to make something specific. Right now, however, we're just trying to make an ingot. So we put the material that we want to use right here, and it automatically knows that without a plan, it's trying to take unshaped into an ingot. The difference between these two little arrows here is what we have to compensate. I can't actually get anything to move because my tin is no longer even hot, or even slightly warm. But these would move the green little arrow up and down, and then the point is to get them lined up perfectly. The rules on the right-hand side add a little bit more complexity to it, in that you have to follow the rules pretty much. This one here says the final thing to be done must be a hit, and a hit is on the left-hand side. It's in the red text. So it just means that the last thing that's done to match these arrows up has to be taken from this side. So since the tin has cooled down, this is what we will use our fire for. We're going to put it back in the fire. I'm going to add in an extra log so the fire will jump back up to about mid-level or so. Take the extra slag away. Should warm up pretty quickly. Do a little bit of bellowing here. So okay, while we do that, back to the forging interface. We've made our hammer, and that goes on the left-hand side here. So this will be the hammer that we are going to be using. Over here is where flux will go, and that's when we're going to be starting to deal with more complicated things with the ingots. So for right now, all we'll need is the ingot, or the unshaped tin to be made into the ingot, and the hammer. And that should be very close. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to let it go to liquid, so it will actually cool down while we're here. See, straight down to hot. And now, you can see that I can move the things back and forth, but they don't match up per se. So the trick, that right there got them to match up perfectly, but the problem is that the last thing I did was a punch, not a hit. So it's still hot, so I can still work it. So it's just a matter of zeroing in just enough. There we go. And that has produced us a hot ingot. The ingot is what we can use to make the different tools and such like that. And notice the durability of our stone hammer has gone down quite a little bit here. The next thing that we're going to need, just going to keep my fire hot there. The next thing that we're going to need is a way we're trying to make a chisel. And we can use the ingots, we can just do a direct pattern in the crafting. Yeah, I think it requires like an extra ingot if we wanted to do it that way. But what I'm going to show you to do, or how to do, is a constant topic that we brought up is resource management. And we want to make sure that we're utilizing our resources as best we can. To that end, there is a better way to be able to do this. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of wood. And a feather, which I don't seem to have. Alright, I'm going to cheat. Ignore everything else in here. There we go. Okay. So, if I was actually going to craft what I just did, it would be in the shape of a boat. You put a piece of paper in the middle, and then you have a feather up on the top, and it creates what is called a scribing table. I had recording issues earlier, so this is actually my second time through all of this. I took down most of what I've already built, which is why it's kind of like that, in order to record this again so I could actually get a good recording of it. But that's why that chest is filled with a whole bunch of things that I made the first time through. So, the scribing table is where we can make out plans for what we want. In this case it's a chisel, so it's extremely simple. What you would normally do is you take your ink sac, just stick it into the crafting thing, crafting section, and you'll get markings. These are what you can use to draw on the paper on a scribing table to make your different patterns and stuff like that to be used to shape tools and such. So you put your piece of paper that's blank up in the top, and then for a chisel it's just a simple straight line up and down. If we wanted to do something a little more complicated, I believe this would get you a pickaxe. See if I remember the axe head. Guess not. I do remember this one though. That is a shovel head. Almost said mace. Haha. And I believe the sword is something like a diagonal. You can figure out a lot of these recipes on your own. There we go. Sword would just be a diagonal. So these are all the different shapes that you can make. And the key to doing it this way with these is that you save a significant amount of material. If you're putting it together in a crafting station, you'll have, your ingots will go across the top, and then your sticks will go down the center, and it will require multiple ingots in order for that item to be made. When you're using the plans, you can make the chisel head in this case using a single ingot, so it saves you the resources. Instead of taking 3, it'll only take the 2. So now that we have our plan, we have our ingot. Over on the forge, we have our hammer. So if we put the ingot here, if we put the plan there, it puts up the gap. So this is how much work we have to do to go from an ingot to a chisel head. And our rules this time are that the last 3, so this means out of the last 3 actions, one of them has to be a punch. So one of the last 3 things we have to do when we're meeting up the arrows is something from this side. What you'll notice is that I'm not able to do anything to the ingot. It's because it's cooled completely down and it's not malleable anymore. So we put it back into the fire, which I've just barely caught before it went out. And this will actually heat the ingot back up for us, but we need to be very careful with this because we don't want it to melt. If the ingot melts this time, we have to reshape it. So if we are going straight from unshaped tin to the desired object, we actually should be able to do that in one go, assuming we have everything ready. I just wanted to show the individual steps here. So I'm going to wait for this to just barely say very hot because we can work the ingot while it's also hot. That's just one of the benefits of tin. It has a very malleable range here. So we should be getting there pretty quickly here. There we go. Right before it would go to melt. That puts it in. So we need to really jump it up there. Now we want to tap it down. Punch, hit. punch. There we go. That was a combination. It took about half of our remaining durability of our hammer. It did not consume the plan. It's unknown whether or not that's going to be changing or anything, but we now have a tin chisel head. And this is the key. This is what we've been searching for all this time, that will unlock our abilities to create new metals, expand from beyond the Stone Age into the actual Bronze Age is the next one that comes up. So it's actually tin doesn't count as being out of the Stone Age technically. But this right here will craft us a chisel, and it's a chisel that can make bricks. Bricks are key for these, which will be bloomeries. If I have... going to make a shovel real quick. Whoops, that's not the right table. So make a shovel. That gets us one of these. And I'm just going to make the center one for now. What I have done here is, with the design, is that the bloomeries are conjoined so they share the wall in between, and this will cut down on the resources that are needed for it. Normally they have to be a 3x3, and they have to be made out of brick, which I'll show you how to make right now. It's just simply the chisel, tin chisel, and then cobblestone. This is made from cobblestone. If you make it out of normal stone, you're not going to get it. So it's cobblestone. We'll get you the granite blocks, and I'm just going to make... oh, why not? I'll make them all. There we go. Now what we're going to do here for the bloomery is it needs a base of 3x3, and it has to be out of bricks. So that gets us the base. Then for the next level is we just want to cover this back area, the back 3 and then 1 on each side. But because I like how things look, and the first time I did it I had basalt, I am going to do the next layer in basalt. So I'm going to have the bottom layer be the granite. This part honestly does not matter all that much. This is more of just for looks. So we're going to go up one more layer and then across the top like this. When you have this basic setup, this is all you need for a bloomery. You then need to make the front section here, which we will make using granite. You just put like the old forge or the old furnace pattern. So one around each outside, and then it takes a piece of charcoal in the center to give you an object called the bloomery. When placed at the entrance, you'll have 2 lines facing out towards you, and you'll notice there's a hole on each side. This is where you can stick a bellows to additionally give a little extra heat into the bloomery. As luck would have it, I crafted a bellows earlier for the previous demonstration. Once again, the hole will face the direction that you are facing, so it's going to come out that way and go into the bloomery, and I'll just set it down on the right hand side because that's what I'm used to doing. And that's it. This will open the bloomery interface, which is just a simple readout of how much ore it has stored, how much coal it has stored, and what type of mineral it has inside of it already, with the temperature gauge on the left. And the bloomeries are capable of reaching a much higher temperature than the little fireplace over there. And also significantly easier. They'll also cook the minerals down, or the ores down and such, into their liquid metal form pretty much on their own, and store them like that until you're ready to retrieve them. The trick to them, however, that most people, this is where they stumble, is they'll be making everything and then it won't be melting their ore for them, is you need to keep the amount of coal inside the bloomery equal to or above the amount of ore or mineral that you've put inside of it. So we start with the core, or start with the charcoal, and it has to be charcoal. It cannot be coal, by the way. So I've mentioned that a couple of times, but now it's time to really remember that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see that it's lit up. You could see the glow when it happened. And with 4 pieces of coal in there, it's raised to 13.5 kilograms. Although something tells me... yeah, alright, it's consumed a piece of coal already. Each piece that you put in there is 4.5 kilograms, so I was expecting it to be an 18. What we need to do then is put in our ore. In this case, it's going to be the cassiterite. Uh, so we pop that in, 3, 4. Let's check our levels. We have them equal, so the temperature is still going up. If the ore was higher, then this temperature would probably be down to about right here, as it wouldn't heat up high enough to really do much of anything. I'm actually going to stick another piece of coal in there just to ensure that it has a good ratio. I would say always keep it higher, because if your Bloomery... one more. If your Bloomery, it probably just sucked all that down. There we go, it is full. If your Bloomery can't heat up, then it's not going to be able to process anything inside of it. You'll notice that all the ore is down, it's just the one piece that I had just put back into there is in there again. So the next step is how we get the unshaped metal back out. It's going to keep on burning the coal and keep it at that temperature to keep it nice and liquidy. What we need to do is... oh, sun's rising, nice. We need to take our clay, and I believe I showed this in one of the earlier episodes of how to make the clay molds. So I'm going to make a nice little set of these. We'll get 16 of them. And they stack up nicely and such. But we can't use just the clay mold. If I tried to put that in there as is, it's not going to do anything. It's just sitting there. I mean, there's no ore left to be processed. It's all in a liquid state, so it's waiting to come out. We need to be able to fire these into ceramic molds. We can do that in the fireplace. If we put it in here, the fire was lit, this temperature would go up. But everything that you can do... oh, I guess it did go up a little bit. Everything that you can do in the fireplace can also be done in the forge, and the forge will actually reach a temperature that is higher and hotter. So to build a forge, it has to have a stone base, needs to have a central ring like the Bloomery, except we do have to have all of these on the side here. And then it also needs open air, so it needs to have a chimney. If you do it straight up like this, then it will go straight up to the sky, you'll have no problems, and the forge will run. However, if it rains, rain can drastically affect the temperature of the forge. Whoops, I did not mean to click that. It will drastically reduce the temperature of the forge. If it normally sat around here on the temperature gauge, rain would drop it to about there, making it fairly useless. So to combat that, we just build the little eave over it. I'm going to build around the back. And this is a valid chimney pattern. I'll fix the back out of the new material when I have more time to do so. But the logic for it, we'll see that this is the pit, it goes over one and then has sky. Technically for this layout, even right here being over one and then sky is good enough pattern. But if this was interior, where we had a roof over here, the chimney there still needs to be able to go all the way up to the sky. Even if you make it 30 because you're way down in bedrock, if you go 30 high and you still have rock over your head, this will not work as a forge. So the next thing, we will need that, because we will need a lighter forge, but it also runs on charcoal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pieces of charcoal. Should have worked. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's open to the air. I have it surrounded on all 3 sides. There's no dirt anywhere in the mixture. Alrighty, maybe it's just being stubborn. There we go. It was just being really, really stubborn. I thought it threw me for a second. Alrighty, so we now have a lit forge, and right-clicking on it gives us this interface. The fuel for the forge is down on the bottom part of the V here. And if we take a piece of charcoal and put it up here, you'll notice that it slides down. The charcoal is fed from the top to the bottom, so the bottom will always be the one that's going to be burnt next. and you can just load it up from either side to have a full V of the charcoal. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to put our ceramic molds into these locations. These are the slots that will heat up like they would in a normal campfire, but we can do 5 at a time now. So a little bit more productive is not having to wait for an individual one at a time. We can just fill the whole thing up. So this will get us, in a moment, I believe these need to get up to the red coloration before they'll actually be done, as opposed to everything else where it just needs to say very hot. So it shouldn't take too much longer. Here we go. Faint red already up there, eh? Here we are. And you'll see a piece of coal was consumed. Temperature jumps back up a little bit. But I have my ceramic molds now. And you can shift click and it will also automatically populate this for you. So that makes it even a little bit more easier. It looks like the temperature jumped up a little bit. I wonder if it wasn't reading the coal right. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but I would expect these to cook a little bit quicker now. We'll put another piece back in. Yeah, already up to very hot. So I'm just going to make one more stack of these. This, the forge can be used for everything the fire can be used for, except for melting ores. I'm not able to, I could put cassiterite in there, or no, actually, I don't even think I can put cassiterite in there. It would actually not be a valid selection for that. But what it is good for is taking multiple pieces of unshaped metals and putting them into the liquid state. When that happens, when you have the multiple metals and we're working with alloys, it's going to be combining multiple different types in a metallurgy table with very, very specific timing to get it to produce the different alloys. The first one that we'll be tackling is going to be bronze when we get the materials for that, which are going to be copper along with this tin from the cassiterite. And using a forge for that is probably the key for working with the metallurgy table. Is you'll literally have it right next to you, sort of deal, where you'll be able to take them from the forge into the liquid state directly over to the metallurgy table. But you have to be very careful with the forge, because if it heats things too hot, then it will actually melt them and you will never get them back again. They're literally just gone. And we have one more little piece here. To combat that, you can take your ceramic molds and you can put them in the side here. And when the ceramic mold is off to the side, it's actually in wait for any metal here that turns into a liquid. It will then fill the mold and stay in the fire to get fairly hot without disappearing. So I'm actually going to keep these for now, as we will need them for the bloomery. Oops, not there, over there. Almost there. Going to take out the coal here because I'm not going to keep on cooking. Temperature should stay just fine on its own. And while that last one is working up, I'm actually going to tuck a couple of things in here, because you can see we have quite a bit of tin coming our way. So that'll give us enough room. And there's our last ceramic mold. So you take the ceramic mold over to the bloomery. You can see that it's been burning through our coal, but when it says ore of 0, that means it has no ore left to process, not that it's empty. As long as it says there's a type up here with the ore to the right of it, then that's the type of ore that's already in liquid state and waiting for the ceramic mold to fill it up with a brilliant white unshaped tin. And you'll be able to do this until it runs out of ore. And as soon as it does, the type has reduced to nothing, and now you can put in a different type of ore if you wanted to into this bloomery. You can't mix the ore types, so that is a fairly important thing to keep in mind. Is if we already had this in here, so 1, 2, 3, and now we'll check the, you'll notice that the temperature has dropped quite a bit. It's because we have more ore than we have in coal. So I'm just going to go grab a couple of pieces of coal again. That was a hammer. check that. So that should be even, and now we should have one more coal than we do the ore. And there's the temperature. It just finally kicked down. So first thing we'll do, oh, it's not actually going to let us finish that. So we'll get another one, and then another half. So this leaves us with 2 half pieces of unshaped tin. I'm going to just let the coal burn it out. There is no way to take anything else back out of this. That is something to keep in mind. If you do screw up with the ores and the amount of coal and it doesn't burn, the only way to reset it at this point in time is to actually dig this part out, and you lose all of your materials. So I am not going to show you how to do that. But if it's not heating up and you have the wrong mixture in there, dismantlement and rebuilding it is pretty much the only option. Oh, excuse me. The only option at this point in time. I will show you what to do with the 2 half pieces. Is in the future you will be able to put them like here and here, and heat them up and use the metallurgy table to combine them into a single ingot. But right now, because the mod is still a work in progress, is you're able to put them into the crafting table like that, and you'll actually get a single ingot from there. So it piggybacks on the repair mechanics as it currently stands. And so that right there is the basics of Stone Age metallurgy. We won't need this anymore, so we can get rid of that. The bellows can be repurposed for... You might be able to use it on a forge. I will look into that, but you definitely can use it on a bloomery here. So if this is what we were going to be doing, and it is, I would just set up the next bellows to be at this angle, so I could build my next bloomery right here, and that, yeah, might as well finish the deed. So this is how I can join the bloomeries. This is how they'll share the wall in the middle, so I don't have to repeat those resources. If I can just get out of the way of my own self. There we go. So that's another bloomery. All it needs is the front piece, which from the earlier demonstration I still have one left over. And there we are. So a second bloomery, you can right click it, you get the interface, and now I can fill it with whatever type of ore I want to. And I saved all the materials in this row, so 3 on the bottom, 2 in the middle, and then 3 on the top. The next thing to note is that these can actually be built up to about 5 higher, so it can hold a total of 90 kilograms of material. You'll generally want to split that evenly between your coal and your ore, or at least make sure that the coal is higher than the ore. For now, however, these are high enough for me, as I don't have a lot of materials to smelt into them, and I don't have a lot of different types of materials. When that does happen, I'll start with my second set on the other side, and I'll just finish off this one here, so I'll be able to do quite a bit of variance and quite a bit in volume, while still having a fairly low profile here. So I hope that this was fairly clear, and if there are any questions, please feel free, because this really is a cornerstone of what we'll be doing for the pretty much the remainder of this mod for as it currently stands. It's pretty much seeking out new ores. There's a little entrance to one of our granite mines there, but it's seeking out the new ores, getting the new metals, working them in the foundry, or in, well, I call this entire area the foundry, working them in the forge, and then adding in a metallurgy table to try and create the new alloys and make it all the way up to blue steel. That is really what we're going for. So if anything in this wasn't clear, if I was a little too excited and I went over something too fast, please ask in the comments. I'll try and address all the questions as I usually do. If you're having some sort of technical issues though, it might be easier to hop into the IRC channel, which you can find on the Minecraft forums. There's a link to it there. And just come and ask me, as I sit in the channel most of the day. Even if I'm not paying attention, you can at least leave me a message and I can try and answer it at some point in time. So look forward to the next episode. I'm not sure exactly what it will be in there, as these kind of went back to back to back. But love to hear all feedback in the comments, and any suggestions for stuff moving forward, please let me know.